Welcome back to Right on Four Corners. I'm your host, DelSheree Gladden. I'm an author of over 30 published novels and a high school English teacher. For the next 2 episodes, we have kind of a special project with theater students here at San Juan College. These students are in the Intro to Theater class this semester, and they are going to be talking about the plays that they have written and will be producing coming up on December 13th. This week, we have Rachael Culpepper and Tristianne Dorenkamp, and they are both going to be talking about their experience writing these plays, as well as seeing them come to life in the productions that they've been working on this semester. So our theater student that we're talking to is Rachael Culpepper, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about her play, They Did What, and what it's about and how she worked through the process of creating this play in her Intro to Theater class this semester. Rachael, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Rachael Culpepper. I am a student at San Juan College. I'm doing the Intro to Theater class because I attended theater when I was in high school and I really enjoyed it, or I needed a humanities class for my prerequisites. So I picked Intro to Theater, and my play, They Did What, was formulated by a drawing. So we drew different parts of what we're supposed to write. Subject was a rivalry, and my casting mix was 3 males and 1 female, and my setting was in a garage. One of my characters had to be a lawyer, and the prop had to be a cell phone. So that's kind of what I used as a starting point. And then after class, after I had my little drawings in my head floating around, I went to dinner with my husband and kind of just bounced off ideas with him. And then I got a little bit of an idea of what I wanted to do. And then the next day, I just sat down, spent some time, and just wrote the premise out. And then that's how it bloomed. And then the play is set in a garage, and the lawyer is running his practice out of his mom's garage. And his mom is his secretary, and she's not very good at her job. And it is a cringe comedy. 2 of the characters end up being double booked, and they know each other, and they just so happen to be suing each other. And the play kind of explores what happens when they show up.
Thank you for setting that up. I had so much fun reading this, and we'll dive into that in just a minute. But I did want to ask you a little bit about your background in theater. You said you participated in high school. Was that mostly as an actor or on the technical side, or did you do any writing in high school as well?
So in high school, we were supposed to write a monologue. So I did write a monologue for an assignment. I was in the event class, but I ended up having to transfer to a different school that did not have a theater program. So I didn't get a chance to write my own play in advanced theater. That's usually what they had the students do, was write a 1 act, but I didn't get that far.
So you've been introduced to some of the elements of putting it together. So that's really awesome that now you've gotten the chance to put together your 1-act play. And I love the premise that you guys work with of having to draw the different elements. I think that really mixes it up. And after getting to talk to some of the students in the class, it really created a pretty wide range of topics and characters. And it's really made it a lot of fun to see what you guys have come up with. What did you think was the most challenging element that you drew to try to work into your play?
So the most challenging element was the garage. The professor did say, hey, well, Paul Saul, he runs his practice out of a garage. And so that was kind of the little seed that made me think of just having the lawyer run his practice out of his mom's garage.
I love how you brought those elements together. The mom character is so funny, and the way she interacts with the clients as well as with the main character, the lawyer, Spencer, and she kind of just inserts herself into things that if you were in a normal office, that wouldn't work quite the same way. So tell me about how that setting of the garage seemed, at least from my perspective reading it, seemed like it really infiltrated into the story arc, the development of the characters. It's kind of a character itself in a way.
Yeah, when I was thinking about it, I was just trying to imagine how people would react, thinking that they're going to a regular office for a lawyer and then it's a garage. So I just wanted to make sure that the elements, the stuff they used is really funny, like the fold-out table and the chairs instead of regular comfortable chairs or lawn chairs. And the mom's secretary desk is just a TV tray. Anything that made me smile and I thought was funny, I just added that to the setting.
I think you did a great job with that. I loved she's like directing them to the different parts of the, quote unquote office and sit in the lobby. Now you can come into the office. And it's the way it's structured is just kind of like, I'm picturing in my mind just like chairs in random spots in the garage that have been designated the lobby or different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a really fun way to make use of your props and put those in there as well. One of the things that made this even more fun to read is my son and I had a similar experience. He was down from college because he needed to get something fixed on his car. And so we have the address for the mechanic that we're supposed to drop the car off at. And we basically just pull up to someone's house. And we're both like, wait, are we in the right place? So that kind of struck, because living in San Juan County, a lot of people have side businesses that they kind of run out of their house. And so you never quite know what you're going to get when you show up somewhere. So I thought that was funny just because it presents it, like if you're talking to someone and just telling them what a lawyer working out of his garage, that sounds a little out there. But depending on where you're at, that might not be that uncommon. I loved that element of realism to this in what's a humorous, fun situation, but one that people may have encountered. So I wanted to ask you as well about your character development, because this is something for me when I write long form. I struggle to keep things short. I don't do a lot of short stories. I have a hard time working in that small amount of space with my writing. And you guys only have one act. Most of the plays are kind of in the 7 to 10 minute range. So you really don't have a lot of room to spend on character development. But I thought you really did a nice job with that in this, because I get a really clear sense of all the different characters and their personalities and just how they play off of each other. What approach did you take for developing your characters and making them unique from each other?
I wrote the beginning, middle, and end first, and I wanted my characters to do certain things first. And then after I had the premise written, then I went through each character and wrote their character description of basically how I wanted them to be based on what actions they take in my premise. And then I used those as a guideline when I was writing the actual lines for the characters.
Yeah, that's a really interesting approach to kind of get your main points of the storyline in place so you know what everybody needs to do and kind of when and how, and then being able to go back and really fill in some of the details for your character. Have you done creative writing in the past outside of theater?
I have done creative writing mostly for school and sometimes for fun. When I was a teenager, I used to write poetry all the time, and in elementary school, I used to write short stories because I really like the creative aspect of writing. But when it comes to academic writing, I have a bit of writing anxiety. So when approaching this play, I was experiencing the writing anxiety, but I found that just sitting down, making the time, and just free writing really that.
That's great. I think free writing can be such a valuable exercise to just get the thoughts out of your head and put them somewhere else where you can take a step back and look at them and see what you want to keep and maybe what you don't, what was just random and thrown in there. So that's really neat that you were able to work through that anxiety, because that academic pressure, it really changes things. When I was working on my graduate program, I did a dual literature and creative writing, so kind of half and half on my classes. And it was like I could sit down and analyze whatever story we were reading and get that done. And then for one of our capstone projects, it was writing a short story, which is not in my usual mode of writing. I struggle with that short form writing. So I totally get what you're saying about feeling that like academic pressure going into a project that is creative creative, but you're working on it for a grade and for school. And that can be challenging to kind of find your way around that and keep your creativity going without getting stifled by that academic pressure. Did you find the overall experience of working through this, getting some feedback and developing this under, you had specific things you needed to accomplish in that the fact that this is for your class? How did some of that come into play with working through the overall project and working with that feedback to meet your criteria for your assignment, but still have your creativity and your personality in this?
The time crunch helped me get it done because, again, the anxiety can cause you to procrastinate. And we only had a week to write the play with the premise, so there wasn't a working ahead. One of my classmates even already had hers written because she misunderstood that we were going to draw almost everything that we needed to make the play. The pressure kind of helped a little bit, just knowing that I have to get this done. So I sat down and I just wrote whatever I found amusing and whatever I felt like it was going to make a funny comedy. And there was a rubric that we had as a guideline. So I used that also to help me form my play. One of the things I was worried about was he said it puts the idea out there and something about profound. And so I was worried that my play didn't do that, but when I really sat with it afterwards, we had to do the whole background thing for a PowerPoint presentation, like the backgrounds, the characters, like kind of a prequel and where are they now, what happened after the play type of thing. And that's when I was like, oh, I actually do have some messaging, like rivalry doesn't pay and it can have collateral damage to people around you, and don't judge a book by its cover, because the lawyer, even though he's running out of the garage and he has a secretary that is really bad at her job, he's a really good lawyer despite all of that.
I love that exploration of our own writing where we can look back at it and be like, oh, wait, I did do some interesting good things here. And I was, implementing these things that I didn't realize I was doing. Because I think that's such a fun part of writing where you're in it, you're putting everything down, you're mixing these different components together. And we don't always consciously think like, okay, I've got this checklist of things that I need to accomplish in this story. But it's in there somewhere. It's in the back of our thoughts. It's in our subconscious of things that we look for in good stories and how do we work those in. And I think that's something that comes with practice over time. But I love that you were able to take a step back doing that and be able to look at your work and see all the good qualities. Because I think sometimes as a writer, that's hard to evaluate our own writing and see the positive things. It's so easy to pick out the critical things, the mistakes, the typos. Oh, I didn't do this or that. We're not always the best at saying, well, I did do a really good job on that. So I'm glad you were able to have that experience and be able to see everything that you did do that maybe you didn't even realize at first. As we start to wrap up, Rachael, I wanted to ask you about the upcoming performance from taking your writing and putting it into the actual play form that's going to be performed. What has that been like?
It's my first time stepping into the role as director, and so I put out some flyers and tried to get some interest to audition for my play, but I ended up being my play cast. My husband is actually playing Logan, one of the characters in the play. And it was just really fun seeing it all come together. I finally got all 4 of my actors together in one spot. It's really exciting, and we're kind of doing a little bit of a collaboration. So if they're having a hard time saying something, if it's a little bit too wordy, one of them was my friend Amber didn't want to keep on saying meeting a bunch of times in one of her lines. So we changed it to when Mr. Spencer's ready for you. I mean, I thought the repetition of meeting was funny, but if it was tripping her up, I decided it would be better to change it if it's easier for her to say it.
That makes sense. And that's an interesting part of working in like theater and film, that you get it ready in written form and then it takes on this other element of developing and working with the people who are in the roles and the other parts of production to really bring it together and add in all those extra details that we don't get on the written page. Well, thank you so much, Rachael, for taking the time to talk with me today and share your work with us.
Thank you for having me.
We are talking to Tristianne Dorenkamp about the play she has been writing in her class this semester, and it is called Two-Faced Spies, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But first, Tristianne, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got involved with the program.
My name's Tristianne, like you said. I'm 18 years old, and how I got involved in this is I've actually done a lot of musical theater throughout my life, but specifically I've been doing Four Corners musical theater every summer for the last 3 years, and I wanted to get more experience in theater for my audition resume, so I decided to do this college class. I haven't ever wrote a play before, but I was very excited for this opportunity because I have actually written and self-published my own novel.
Well, that's exciting. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the novel as well. Let's talk about what this program has been this semester, because it's really a lot rolled into one. So you guys are getting experience kind of across the board, not only with the writing, but putting together a play as well. So we'll touch on a little bit of everything in the time we have. But tell us just the basic premise of the Two-Faced Spies. We don't want to give away the whole thing, but give us kind of the setup for this one-act play that you've written.
Two-Faced Spies is about two people named Carla and Dr. Bella who are sitting, at a restaurant, but Dr. Bella has found out that the two people behind her are both trained assassins that might try to kill each other if she doesn't stand in and try to stop it.
So we've got action right off the bat that is promised to the viewer or reader. So tell me a little bit about where did you get this idea for these assassins and then someone else having to manage the situation?
So I got this idea from, actually it first originated from, we had to draw a genre for our play in the class. And I got spy versus spy. And the inspiration came from, I used to watch this show with my family when I was little all the time called Chuck. And I thought it'd be kind of funny because I enjoyed how the main character kind of gets thrown into these situations that he's not completely sure of. And I thought it'd be funny if I kind of extremed that and took it where this person feels the need to help and step in, but they possibly don't know as much or they know more than the audience thinks they do.
That's awesome. I've watched several seasons of Chuck, and it was a delightfully funny show. So that's really neat that that's kind of where the inspiration came from, because yours has some fun humor in it. It's got action, and you have such a short amount of space to introduce your characters, but they each have their own really interesting, fun qualities that you kind of put everybody together. So you're kind of thrown into this genre by picking it randomly.
Yeah.
Which, that's a fun way to approach this. Me as a teacher, I'm like, oh, I love that. Here you go. That's what you're doing. Try something new. So you've got a new genre and you've got to put these characters into place. So how did you approach developing who your characters were and how they were going to come together in this very short moment where a lot happens?
It was pretty difficult at first, especially because pretty much my only experience had been previously was Shakespeare and musicals. And then I've never done a spy thing in my life. And I love the genre, but I've never tried anything. And I was like, the thought of trying to figure out how these characters would act, how they would feel, was very difficult in a way. But how I kind of learned how to set it up is I did some research. Our teacher actually had some suggestions for me to look at, and I basically took the characters and I kind of imagined, okay, if I was Dr. Bella or Carla or one of the spies even, how would I approach the situation? And it helped me develop their personalities, even though I had never been familiar with this genre before.
Well, and that sounds maybe kind of similar to approaching a character as an actor, of kind of having to put yourself in that place and kind of feel out what's going on. Did you find some similarities between your experience in acting and taking on this writing project?
Oh, yes, definitely, for sure. Because, like you said, it's very much like taking on a character that you're unfamiliar with. And, like, I'd even sit there while I was typing and kind of, like, mouth their words and, like, move their actions. Because it made me feel more like, okay, it's a developed character. So if I was acting this character, what would I need to know to have this character's personality? So that definitely incorporated into the writing of the script, yes.
I tend to do that too, and I'm like making the faces and doing body motions and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's kind of funny because you think like writing, sitting at the typewriter, you know, in like the old fashioned sense of like just, you know, tapping away at keys. But I think it probably would be very comical for a lot of people to watch writers work and see how active it can sometimes be.
Yeah, I've actually had my family laugh at me before because they've seen me writing. They'll be like, "What are you doing?"
Nothing. Just working it out. Just thinking through it. It's fine. Well, and as you mentioned, this was a new genre for you all the way around, it sounds like, as far as participating in the production of something. With musical theater, like obviously you're not breaking into song in this.
Yeah.
But what were some of the similarities that you found between creating the suspense of this short situation that you could kind of translate from some of the plays that you've been in the past? Did you find some similarities there, or were you really just kind of having to go from scratch?
I definitely found similarities because all in all, even though a musical might be, you know, obviously a completely different genre, it's still a staged act. Like, there's still conversations and everything. And the suspense and everything, I feel like I learned from my director and my co-director from musical theater. Their names are Randy and Sarah. And they just, I took to heart, like, all the instructions they would always give me. They'd be like, do this or move over here, because that just adds a little more suspense or adds a little more comedic humor. And that helped me a lot with, like, staging the play and kind of learning how to develop the characters, even though musical is very, very different than a spy. Like you said, we're not breaking into song every other moment, but the speech scenes are very similar between the two.
Well, and I would think, too, kind of staging it, the motion of what is happening when the activity kind of breaks out in the scene. Again, I don't want to say too much about it, but you're needing to coordinate that along with the dialogue and what else is happening in the scene as you're writing the play and putting the stage directions in. It's very similar to choreographing a dance or the blocking where maybe you're doing that physically, but you're having to imagine it and put it on paper. So what was that like kind of translating between the two?
Yeah, it was definitely, it's a lot like a dance. Even our teacher says that a fight, it's basically a dance that looks like a fight when you do staged combat. And it's the translating is like when you write out a fight scene, you put the beats and like beat 1, beat 2, which is very similar to dancing in musical theater, which is like you move this way for this beat and move that way for this beat. You do the same thing with fighting. I think that helped me a lot to translate this scene into a fight scene because I'd never choreographed a fight scene as well, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it'd be because I had been used to helping choreograph dances or stuff like that.
Oh, that's good. I think those fight scenes can be really challenging if it's not something you've worked with before. I know in some of my writing when I've had to do fight scenes, I've drawn a lot from watching UFC. And kind of pulling for that, and I'll watch and be like, okay, what do they do now? How are they moving? How do I describe that? I like that you were able to take the dancing side of it that you've experienced and bring that into your, I guess not necessarily description of the fight, that would be more prose writing, but helping the actors get where they need to be to fulfill your vision of the scene.
Yes, thank you.
Well, and that's something that I wanted to ask you about as well, because you've written prose. With this, you have this whole other component of trying to get the real actor to do what you want them to do in the scene. But when writing plays, like there's not typically a lot of direction written in because that direction comes as it's being directed with the people. Did you find that challenging to not include all of the description and direction and all of that you would with prose?
I did at first. I kept having to erase it out when I was editing the script because, like you said, with writing a novel and everything, you have to add every single little description because then your readers are confused. But with script, they're watching it right there. And you have to kind of figure out some of that stuff because it's like you actually have to stage it in a play. So you can't just add every little detail that you think of or like, oh, they should be standing in this corner or this corner, because sometimes it doesn't work out like that. And it was very difficult to keep those out. And I don't know if I did perfect on keeping all of them out when I had to do my first staged reading this week. But I think I did a lot better than I thought I would. But still, it was very difficult.
I can imagine. Yeah, I've only taken one screenwriting class, and that was the hardest thing for me. And like the comments I would get back from my teacher that was like, you can't have all this stuff in here. I'm like, oh, sorry. Yeah, it's definitely a big shift from writing prose to any type, screenwriting or playwriting. It's a very different experience where you have all the control writing prose. You can tell your characters what to do and move them around and shift them. But you're going to get to experience, it sounds like you guys have kind of started that, but working with your real life characters in a sense.
Yeah.
And getting, to do the things that you would normally in prose, just, make your characters do however you want. What are you thinking about that part of the process and the differences between what you've worked in before and what you're experiencing? Do you kind of have a plan? Do you have notes of what you want going in? Or is that something you plan to develop as you work with your actors?
I have a couple of plans. I really do want it to, especially, don't want to give too much away, but the fight scene in the show, I really want it to go very well and very smoothly, because if that does not go smoothly, then it won't even seem like a fight. But most things, I'm really trying to be open to my actors, because I know that as an actor myself, because this is the first time directing, it means a lot when you are seen and heard, and you can learn a lot from the actors about your play, like what would make it better, what improvements it could have. And it's really cool. It's already going a little bit different than envisioned, but I love it so much already. One of my actors is actually, I think she's 11 years old, so that will be really interesting.
Oh, wow.
And then my oldest actor is 21. They're all in that range.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Exciting. We are already getting close to the time to wrap up. This went really quickly, and there's still lots more to cover. But I did want to ask you about your book, and I may check and see if you want to come back another time specifically to talk about that. But tell us a real quick overview. What is your book, and where might people go find it if they want to check it out?
Oh, yes, I would love to tell you about my book. It's a fantasy novel called Nowhere, but it's spelled with a K at the start, so it's Knowhere. My pen name is Paper Robin, so it says by Paper Robin. And if you look up Nowhere by Paper Robin on Amazon, that's where you can find it. Like I said, it's a self-published novel. It's fantasy. And it's about this boy named Alexander who travels to a different world to try to save it from a man named the Shadow Man.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, we'll chat about that off air in just a minute. Before we wrap up, tell our listeners about the culmination of the class and what you guys have planned to share your work with the community.
The class is Intro to Theater, and it covers all the bases of everything you need to learn in theater. And we plan to show our directing skills, which we are practicing throughout November with our plays on December 13th. And I'm very excited for that because we're going to have a bunch of amazing plays that night. And they're just little short, 8-minute plays.
And that's going to be at the Connie Gotsch Theater?
Yes, it is.
It's free and open to the public. I hope people take a minute to come check out what you guys have been working on all semester and be able to experience the fun stories that you guys have created.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited too.